The fact that you guys created a phone app that a 67-year-old Luddite can make work is testimony to the technology you've created. It's great.
Hey Rick, obviously our partnership has come full circle. We're working on a great digital product called OneGold. It's something we're super proud of. It's really making precious metals investments available to the masses. And one of the things we do there through that is obviously an online platform through an app environment, desktop environment, where people can procure metal at institutional pricing with a matter of a couple clicks on a phone. It allows you to do things like link your bank account, make reoccurring transactions, and frankly be able to take your money out and in as fast as you want to at a moment's notice. As you look at our platform, obviously we have a few products on there, gold and silver. We store it in the U.S. and Canada. Any advice you give anybody out there who's looking in terms of what products they might want to invest in on the platform?
That's too broad a question probably to cover in the space of time that we could have available.
Yeah.
It's Sprott's point of view, but also my personal point of view, that any investor, irrespective of age, with means, should own physical gold and silver.
No doubt.
Physical gold and silver, physical gold in particular, has proven to be an insurance product over time. Mm-hmm. And while nobody of any age, of any wealth, wants to collect on any insurance product, I mean, if you think about it, life insurance means somebody died. Right. The fact is that you do better in time. You sleep nights, stay calm, and in fact probably are a better investor over time if you have an allocation to physical precious metals in a portfolio. What has been interesting to Sprott about OneGold is that we know we have to meet the customer where the customer is, and the younger customer is online. Right. The younger customer doesn't want to have to go to a coin dealer. The younger customer doesn't want to have to go to a bank. Mm-hmm. The idea that we can make gold and silver ownership and transferal convenient while we take costs out of the holding and transferal system is really what has attracted us to OneGold, and the reason why I'm here today.
Well, Rick, one of the things obviously we thought was very important in the OneGold platform was to make sure people knew their metal was always there, that they could trust who they're doing business with, that their counterparty risks were minimized, that they had title to product, that they're fully protected at all times. It's something we put a lot of effort and energy into. Any concerns when you think about investing in the broader scheme of things? How do you make sure you're always protected as an investor?
Well, certainly from Sprott's point of view, the fact that APMEX had simply been in business for so long, had been profitable through that whole length of time, made you a trusted counterparty to us. Certainly at my age, having been through the decade of the 70s and watched so many of the gold and silver scams that took place, where people bought gold and silver because they were not trusting their government, and then found that where they stored their gold and silver also wasn't trustworthy, has been and continues to be, I think, a concern of precious metals investors. One of the lovely things that people have access to now is a whole bunch of peer-reviewed information available on the web.
Right.
Researching Sprott, researching OneGold means that people are able to get good information from disintermediated sources, and certainly that was part of the due diligence that Sprott did on APMEX and made us feel better about it. Of course, coming here and seeing a facility with 3-foot thick walls, armed security guards, and actually seeing the OneGold inventory, despite my tradition of trust, was reassuring.
Yeah, that's great points. That's great points. You know, one of the things that we have worked long and hard on is to make the consumer experience an easy one. You talked earlier about disintermediation and trying to make it easier for consumers to be able to get in and out of metal. One of the things we've tried to do is make the consumer experience easy and straightforward and transparent, and answer all their questions on the front end as much as we can. Any initial feedback on that as you've looked at our platform?
Well, I'll give you an anecdote that'll make you laugh, actually. When I was doing my own sort of due diligence on OneGold, a younger person in our organization who, let's just say, is more familiar with technology, was able to show me how your app worked on a phone. And if a 67-year-old inadvertent Luddite like me can make it work, you have truly succeeded in democratizing gold ownership and transferal. Congratulations for that. I use myself as the sort of lowest common denominator client.
That's fantastic. One of the things we've seen is, and you mentioned review feedback and being able to go out online and research the customer or research the company you're doing business with. We got over 1,500 reviews already on the OneGold platform. We have a 4.8 out of 5. We've got over 65,000 reviews on APMEX, and it's at a 4.9. It means we're taking care of the customer. And one of the things we think is very, very important, any company you do business with, is knowing that you're going to be put first throughout the entire process. As we've seen the industry change and we've seen many companies struggle, I think you'd agree with me that needs to always remain the top priority of a company.
Absolutely. And in fact, one of the lovely things about this online approach is that your reputation can be verified independently from thousands of sources, as you've been able to do. This is one of the great benefits of moving more and more of the financial services industry online, this sort of peer-reviewed performance. I'm not good because I say I'm good. I'm good because thousands of my customers say I'm good.
That's a fantastic point. Well, Rick, one of the things we've talked about in the past is, how do consumers ever put their hands on the metal? How do they actually take possession of the metal if they so choose? And one of the things we put a lot of time into in OneGold is to make redemption, make the ability to take a gold eagle, a silver maple, or a number of other products available to you in a matter of a few clicks. I think it's very important for consumers to know that they can always get their metal firsthand. Any thoughts on that?
Well, for Sprott, that was absolutely critical. Our physical trust products offer redemption at a certain level, but they're more institutional products. Right. And our customers for the last decade have said that physical precious metals products that weren't easily redeemable weren't good products. Right. So when we were looking for online partners, redemption was very important for us. Right. Redemption that is easy, right. And also redemption that's financially efficient. Traditionally, the buyer of physical precious metals who would go buy bullion coins at their coin dealer went through a whole series of inefficiencies. First of all, they had to drive to the coin dealer. Right. They had to buy the coin at a pretty substantial markup. Right. They had to find a place to store the coin. They had to bring it back to the coin, sell it to the dealer, right. Sell it for a fairly substantial markdown. The fact that all of this can be done efficiently and cheaply online is, I think, one of the key products. I think redemption's critical. I think redemption's critical because our customers have told us it is.
Right. No, I think you're spot on.
At our level at Sprott, we can trade with a bank. Right. We don't have that issue, but our customers, the people for whom we do business, right. have told us it's critically important.
Yeah, one of the things we've tried to do, Rick, is we offer about 40 or 50 products online. Matter of a couple clicks, you're done. But we also make the 20,000 products at APMEX available right. to you through a quick phone call. We feel it's important that your digital metal is able to be converted to physical at all times. And one of the things we've also done that's really helped us is to make sure people know that it's going to ship same day or next day. We do not hold on to your money. We want your product in the mail and off to you ASAP, because that's what you expect from a top-notch retailer.
Well, certainly from our point of view, if we were partners of yours and got complaints from our customers as opposed to compliments, you would hear from us. So I'm delighted that you get it out 1 or 2 day delivery, so I don't get a call, so you don't get a call.
Yeah, no, I think it's spot on. Right. Yeah, and one of the things we've seen in our business is, obviously with the equities markets doing very well, consumption of physical metal is not quite as high. But we've seen ETF flows in the past year actually be at very high levels, I think even dating back several years in terms of the amount of inflow. Why do you view inflows into ETFs when the physical demand side hasn't quite kept up quite yet?
I think a lot of people are holding physical assets now in system. Wall Street is very good at monetizing demand, and Wall Street has figured out that there is demand for physical precious metals, and the fact that somebody can go to Merrill Lynch or Schwab and hold their precious metals in the same place that they hold their equities and their bonds has made life very easy.
Why should investors own precious metals?
As insurance, and during periods of time when the price feels depressed, for price appreciation. Yeah. It's worked for 2,000 years. My suspicion is it'll work for a while longer.
Should everyone invest in precious metals?
Everyone should invest in precious metals. The amount that you invest or the form that you invest in changes over time with your age and your means.
So why do high net worth individuals buy silver or gold? Why do they generally go into gold and silver? You always hear about them being at a higher rate into gold and silver. Any reason why you feel that is?
I think wealthy people have better access to information. I think that's how they got wealthy. All the wealthy people that I know read history, and gold does well in history. But wealthy people also have more to protect. Perhaps they became wealthy by being
point.
prudent when other people were less prudent.
That's a great point. That's a great point. Why is gold considered an effective hedge in the world today?
History. Gold is unique in that it's a widely accepted medium of exchange, but it's also a store of value. It isn't fiat. It can't be created with a keystroke.
Right.
It isn't a promise to pay. It's simply payment. You want a short answer, but I'm going to give you a long answer. The customer base at Sprott that I don't have to educate about gold are historically, as an example, Jewish people whose parents experienced Auschwitz. They're Vietnamese boat people. They're Palestinians who were thrown out of Israel. People who, in their experience or their culture's experience, have experienced trauma are not people who require a long-winded lecture from Rick about the efficacy of precious metals.
No, that's a great point. That's a great point. So Rick, dollar cost averaging. It's something I've heard about ever since I was in college. Of course, I didn't practice it very well when I was younger. It's something I try to drive home to my kids. But what's your view on dollar cost averaging, and how should people think about making investments?
Useful technique. What I encourage young people in particular to do is save.
Yeah.
Save 10% pre-tax of every paycheck before you buy your Starbucks. Save.
Yeah.
And some proportion of that saving should probably be in gold. That de facto becomes dollar cost averaging. The important thing isn't dollar cost averaging, though. It's saving.
Right.
To employ capital in the world, and we live in a capitalist society, you have to have some capital.
Yeah.
Save.
Yeah, no, I agree. And one of the things that I was looking at, I actually talked to my children about this recently, was setting up a process and almost forgetting about it. Example could be a 401k. Example could be setting up auto repeat investments. Any view on that? Just to kind of get your body in the motion of doing it, and then letting it go, and then of course revisiting it once a year or more frequently if needed.
Certainly, if that's what it takes.
Yeah.
The important thing is to save and to think about how your money is going to work for you. So dollar cost averaging, sure. Robo-investing, sure.
Right.
Whatever it takes for you is what's important.
One of the things that we're proud of on the OneGold platform, and you can only do this in the digital space, not so much as easy to do in the physical space, is we give consumers the ability to come onto our platform, decide they want to buy $50 in gold every month, set it up, set the end date for when they want that to end, let the funds automatically pull in from the bank account, and you're done. And the concept being that you'll accumulate some assets, some savings in gold, and the reception rate on that has been remarkable. 65% of all of our transactions are auto invest transactions. They're dollar cost averaging, and they're forgetting about it, which I think is a wise decision on our consumers' parts.
Absolutely. I actually think you're doing a public service. I'm not trying to say you aren't getting paid for it. But the fact that you are making a function easy that otherwise might be lost to procrastination is a wonderful thing.
Rick, one of the things we've talked about is the barriers of entry into metal, right? How easy or hard it is to get into metal. One of the things we're proud of at OneGold that we're trying to do is to make it simple, to make it easy, to make it straightforward, to make it transparent. Any views on your experience in investing in metal and how to make it simple for consumers? Markets
work. You are an example of disintermediating historic providers that were very inefficient. I think it's wonderful. I have a high degree of confidence that OneGold isn't what it will ultimately be, that you'll make it a little bit better every year. The market will demand it of you, and the fact that you've been successful so far suggests that you'll succeed in the future. No, that's a great point. And I think staying committed to the consumer, keeping it simple, keeping it attractive for consumers in terms of features are the keys to being relevant in today's society with any fintech type investment you're doing today. Correct. The fact that you guys created a phone app that a 67-year-old Luddite can make work is testimony to the technology you've created. It's great. Thank you. So Rick, there's multiple ways of owning precious metals. I'd like to kind of walk through each one of these, and if you can give us your view on the process, maybe some pros and cons of each one of them, it'd be very helpful to our customers. So let's start with the old school way, physical, right? Physical's been around forever. What's the pros, cons, ways you go about owning physical today? Well, the basis is physical. That's where everybody should start. and the way that people own it is of less interest to me. If they own it absolutely as physical, that's fine. If they own it as a physical ETF, or if they own it as a trust, if they own certificated gold, that's fine with me too. That's where you start. When you move beyond insurance to investing, traditionally, one then invests in the very finest of the gold stocks. Companies that are chosen because of durability of free cash flow margins, the way you would buy any other stock. And then, of course, there are the speculators who want to be in the junior mining stocks or in the very volatile instruments like the high-quality silver stocks. There are also, of course, instruments for equities like the ETFs and the funds. Those have places too. That's really up to the investor. If they want the diversity of an ETF or the diversity of a managed fund, they have to understand that they pay a fee for that, which may or may not seem worth the fee to them.
That's a good point. You know, one of the things that we've heard from customers is some like to control their own destiny. They like to be able to go on to the brokerage account or onto an APMEX.com or onto even OneGold today. But then some like to have advisors. Any view as to which is the right approach for a consumer?
I don't think so. I think that depends on your point in time in life.
Good point.
I encourage investors when they're young to have more control over their assets, not as an end in itself, but rather as a means of education. One of the things that's happened to me later in life is that in some of the asset classes I own, I'm thinking of agricultural real estate as an example, I prefer to have an advisor because I don't want to stretch fence and I don't want to lease land to a farmer. I want somebody to do that for me. You know, I have a day job and it's a pretty good job. One of the things that happens to you as you get older and wealthier and deeper in your own career, you find out that managing certain aspects of your financial career take so much time and effort that they make you less good at what you did to generate the wealth. But it's really an individual question.
Right, no, that's a great point. That's a great point. So, Rick, obviously metals ownership can be done different ways. I've talked to consumers a lot about owning an ETF, owning physical, and owning digital. And I purposely, by the way, leave out crypto. Okay, because I think crypto is something that we should all steer clear of in the short term for obvious reasons, but we won't go there. Let's talk about ETFs. Obviously, Sprott has several ETFs. What's the pros and cons of an ETF for a consumer?
Are you talking about an equity ETF or a gold ETF, a physical ETF?
Physical ETF.
The physical ETFs, the benefit of them is they are extremely liquid and a very low fee product.
Absolutely.
The traditional knock against the physical ETF has to do with the fact that in terms of accommodating the pinches and swells of assets every day, at some point in time, the ETF holder may have substantial deposit receipts rather than physical precious metals. If that circumstances occurred concurrent with a liquidity squeeze like 2008, the ETF holder may find himself or herself to be an unsecured creditor of the holding bank. My own personal belief is that the real risk of that is quite low. But I have some customers for whom the concept of taking any risk whatsoever in their gold portfolio is unacceptable. Those people should avoid the ETFs.
And I think there's also ongoing fees. There's tight spreads, which is the nice thing about an ETF. But there's also an ongoing expense you have to pay for storage. Again, relatively fair, if you ask me. Very similar, actually lower than most mutual funds, but it's something you also have to factor into the cost of ownership as well.
Certainly. Any time that you make ownership of an asset convenient, you pay for it.
Yeah, no doubt.
And nothing's free. I think the physical ETFs are good products for the right investors.
I agree. Let's talk about owning physical. Actual physical where it's metal in your home, or you can put it in storage. But the concept that you're getting a gold eagle, a silver eagle, a bar, it's actual physical metal, it's been fabricated. What are the pros and cons of that asset class, or that ownership type, I'm sorry?
Personally, I don't like coins because I don't want to pay even a small premium for minting. I own larger denomination bullion myself because I'm a cheapskate. We've talked about home storage before. I understand
Yeah.
that some customers want to pet their metal. I get that. I'm nervous about the security aspects of that.
Sure,
So I personally
sure.
would prefer a vaulting relationship where you trusted both the vault and the intermediary.
Right. Obviously, being a large seller of physical precious metals, one thing I would say back to your comment earlier about low premiums is spreads is something people should pay attention to. When they're buying a physical metal, they need to understand what the two-way market is in physical. Oftentimes they'll find, and it's the data proves this, I believe, if people do the research, that a lot of times buying a sovereign coin may have a smaller spread than buying a silver bar. It just depends.
Right.
But depending on the markets, and the markets I'm familiar with, you tend to find tighter spreads. But the reality, though, is that spread's still going to be much larger than an ETF. Is that true?
Yes. And the truth, too, Ken, my associate Jeff Howard has talked to me about this. Given the length of time that I have owned my bullion, the markup between the bullion and the coins doesn't even exist, except that it goes against my sort of cheapskate nature.
I think that's great. Well, and obviously, smaller premiums allow you to get more gold and more silver.
Right.
So there's still valid points to that, right? And then finally, I'll talk a little bit about digital, right? Digital is this new thing. There's a couple of products out in the market today. You have a product like OneGold as well out there. I think the keys or the principles are still true, just like a gold-backed ETF. You got metal, it's always under lock and key, it's audited, it's insured, you're protected, you have title, you shouldn't have any intermediary risk, you should be good to go. But the beauty of it is you can trade it real time, just like you can in ETF. A little bit wider spread, a little bit lighter storage fee, but you have the ability to do things like redemption on the fly. You have the ability to do things like link your bank accounts, do auto investing, and other concepts as the world evolves. I think digital metals is going to become more and more relevant. But again, it depends on the right buyer and the right situation as well.
I love the way you started off by saying should. My staff did some research for me and tells me that there's 80 or 90 digital gold-related products. Mm-hmm. It is critically important, yes, more important than anything else, that the owner of those products understand the sponsor and the manager.
Yes.
There's a lot of things about the gold market I don't know, but I do know that if you send money to somebody that you don't know who you trust, the probability of you losing that money is extremely high.
Right.
So with digital products, knowing your manager, knowing their solvency, knowing their reputation is absolutely critical. I know, I can't tell you now, but I know that $200 or $300 or $400 million is gonna go to money heaven, mm-hmm, from digital gold scammers. This is absolutely, positively going to happen. Yeah. All of the features that you talk about make digital gold a wonderful thing. But digital gold is a concept. It isn't an asset class. Right. The people who sponsor the digital gold products are what you have to pay attention to, even more than the features.
Yeah, trust and confidence in who you do business with is very important. Look, we've seen the crypto space. I believe I've actually heard the number one stable coin that has failed in the crypto space is a gold-backed stable coin. And why do we think people did that? Well, gold's considered a safe haven. If you attach a safe haven reputation to a stablecoin concept, people are bound to put money in, sure, and they get burned. Right. So you do definitely need to be very careful who you do business with at all times and do your research. And you mentioned earlier, consumers will also tell you a lot about a company. Check what the consumers are saying. Do your due diligence before you make any investment. And whether that be physical, ETFs, or even digital, always know who you're doing business with.
Correct.
Well, Rick, thanks for coming in today. We do appreciate your time and all your insights.
Thank you for the conversation, and thank you for the wonderful tour of your facilities.